Welcome back, everybody, to another Dark Prison Road episode of Lockdown 23 in 1. That's right, a dark prison road it is, and it definitely has no light at the end of it. Today I'll be speaking about an individual from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, I believe. I'm going to break down a little bit of what initially sent him to prison. Then I'll break down some of the gruesome things he's done while he's been in there. Not to mention what happened to him after doing these things. So, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is absolutely where you need to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave. And check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Alright, traveling down to Pennsylvania, this individual right here is Paul Jawan Kendrick. This is a clip of him leaving the courtroom before he gets a legendary sentencing for crimes that he committed on a correctional officer in 2018. But to get a better idea of the individual, like I said, we gotta travel all the way back to 2014.
Police say this young man was gunned down in Pittsburgh while simply playing basketball, and the people in his community aren't going to tolerate that. The tips came pouring in, people not afraid to show their faces, walking into this police station with tips on the suspect. With that said, police just gave us this mugshot. Tonight they have a suspect. They're out there searching for him now.
The trial court summarized the facts, and this is what it says. It says on July 31st, 2014 at approximately 11:45 p.m. Antoine Marshall was playing basketball on the basketball court located in Northview Heights Housing Project with Maurice Freeman, Tyree Harper, CJ Pack, and an individual who was only known by the name of Manny. At approximately 12:30 a.m. on August 1st, 2014, about 40 minutes later, Tyree Harper was playing basketball with Marshall and the others when they saw the two light-skinned African-American males approach, both of whom were wearing white t-shirts. He also saw a gun that was being passed between the two of them. They asked to play basketball, and they played one game against Manny, and Manny won. At the conclusion of the game, one of these individuals said that if you're not from Northview, then you're gonna get hit. He then asked where Freeman was from, and Freeman said that he's from Arlington. After this discussion, everyone left the basketball court but left in separate directions, since Harper and Marshall headed toward Harper's sister's house, which was on Penford, while Manny and Maurice headed towards Hazlitt Street. Then they heard gunshots. Maurice Freeman, the individual from Arlington, the out-of-towner, was found dead shortly after. Man, oh man, very tragic story, and my condolences go out to the victim's family and friends. Homeboy was just trying to play a little late night match of basketball and end up losing his life. Comment please, Judge David R. Cashman sentenced Paul Kendrick 20 to life in prison without the possibility of parole in the death of Maurice Freeman, 21. But now that you heard initially what sent him to prison, let's break down exactly what happened to him while he's in prison. Fast forward about 4 years later, he's being housed at SCI Somerset, a medium all-male security prison. It houses a diverse inmate population with various security levels, including a recent transfer of death row inmates, which is going to play a big factor in this story. It says on February 15, 2018, Kendrick launched into a violent attack on correctional officer Baserman, a 60-year-old SCI Somerset Corrections sergeant, who died from his injuries 11 days later. McDowell, one of the correctional officers at the scene who tried to stop the attack, testified that the attack occurred just hours after Baserman took a towel from Kendrick's cell. And First Assistant District Attorney Thomas Leedon told jurors that they would discover in the upcoming days that Kendrick planned the assault after Baserman refused to return his towel. Why on earth would an inmate want to try to attack and kill a CO behind a towel? Well, let's keep in mind Mr. Kendrick's in prison already doing life sentences. He ain't got nothing to lose, and let me break down exactly how this towel was taken. It was actually very petty if you were to ask me. I've been to prison not once, but twice, unfortunately. And when I was in there, I had to bottom bunk many times, and I would do certain things for a little bit of privacy. Many inmates would. It was very common. You'd get your towel, and you would hang it underneath your bunkie's mat above you, and the towel would hang down. And while you're laying in the bottom bunk, the towel will block your face from people walking past the door. Just give you a little bit of privacy with your face, right? But that's illegal in prison. Believe it or not, it's like contraband. So they'll come in, some COs, tight COs, come in, rip the towel down, and sometimes never give it back. And in prison, man, them state-issued towels, they're vital. Some people don't got too many of them. And if I were to guess, just the act of the CO coming in there taking the towel to begin with, like I said, in many inmates' eyes is extremely petty. Not to mention, if the CO said, I'm gonna give you a write-up behind it, they take your commissary, phone, whatever. This guy's doing 2 life sentences. You're gonna give him a write-up behind a funky, dusty little towel. All that CO had to do was say, hey, bro, you good? And the guy would have moved the towel. Yeah, I'm good, man. Appreciate it. And the towel would have went back and dude would still be living if I were to guess. That's why I say to people that tell me they're starting a new job of a correctional officer, look, don't be no tight ass. Don't be so strict to the point where sooner or later someone's going to snap on you for it. I mean, you can if you want to, but like I said, you're going to be running a risk. A lot of COs can get away with that stuff in lower level prisons because those inmates, you know, they got a lot to lose. But medium level to high, you don't know what could be coming your way. You don't know what kind of mood the inmate or CO's in. Sometimes, believe it or not, COs will come in there in a horrible mood and take it out on the inmates, giving write-ups left and right, and that ain't even typically what he does. That will make inmates' blood boil as well. Unfortunately for him, he made the wrong individual mad. But it goes on to say that Paul Kendrick was disciplined for hanging the towel improperly in the cell, and he was acting differently that day. The district attorney told jurors that Kendrick was agitated and fixated on Baserman. Baserman, who was overseeing a prison block of more than 100 men, had a sometimes tough job. But he didn't go to work that day to be killed, the district attorney said. As an inmate serving a life sentence, all Kendrick had to do that day was follow the rules, he said. Kendrick's defense attorney said that some of the testimony jurors will hear this week will illustrate the unique realities of prison culture, where little things like a towel for a shower can be something very important to an inmate, like I just broke down for y'all. I know it really doesn't make sense to the majority of people that ain't never been locked up, but to me it makes perfect sense. I can see exactly why this guy snapped off and killed dude. Probably didn't mean to, but he's 60, you know? He said sometimes people just lose it. Sometimes they lash out and they do things they don't mean to do. Man, this guy's pretty much saying everything I just said. Kendrick is charged with criminal homicide, including first-degree murder. But more details on the altercation says February 15, 2018, an incident occurred during a recreational period. Kendrick was one of dozens of inmates in an institutional day room. Jurors watched 17 minutes of footage that showed moments leading up to the attack, which included 3 separate times Kendrick approached Baserman. The footage did not contain audio, but McDowell, one of the COs, said that Kendrick, who McDowell called a freak about cleanliness, expressed frustration that he lost his only towel. The first 2 conversations between Kendrick and Baserman were brief. The men stood face to face near a corrections officer desk for approximately 15 seconds before Kendrick walked away. Several minutes later, Kendrick approached again, and they faced one another for less than a minute before parting ways. Baserman was leaning against the desk the 3rd time Kendrick approached. After approximately 8 seconds, Kendrick started to turn away, then he pulled back and swung forward, striking Baserman in the head. Baserman began to drop over and Kendrick continued, unleashing what the district attorney described as a haymaker of back and forth strikes, with his left and right hands closed. It was with all the force he could muster, the district attorney added to the jurors. After moments, Baserman was down, dazed, and no threat to hit back. One of the COs, McDowell, ran to the supervisor's aid, but was only able to restrain Kendrick for a moment. McDowell said that he received a cut above his eye, bruises, and other injuries, and he doesn't remember specifics about how it happened. Over a span of several more seconds, footage showed Kendrick landing more blows to Baserman's head. Keep in mind this guy's 60 years old. Just one hit, man, could be fatal, and he's already hit him with like a dozen. Full force haymakers, what the district attorney said. Over a span of several more seconds, footage showed Kendrick landing more blows to Baserman's head, even after the corrections officer appeared to be crawling away. His face was down, helpless, the district attorney said, but Kendrick wasn't done. Wearing a heavy-duty Timberland boots on his feet, and yes, people might be shocked, but you are allowed to buy Timberland boots. Just not steel towel. They sell them on the commissary. I just didn't like them too much because they reminded me of space boots. It says he was wearing heavy-duty Timberland boots on his feet. Kendrick took several quick steps forward and kicked Baserman in the head, with so much force that Kendrick went airborne, the district attorney said. Then he stood up above Baserman and walked away, footage shows. McDowell said he and Baserman were the only officers in the day room at the time, and that was a typical protocol. But within seconds, a wave of correction officers rushed in, but the fight was already over. McDowell and the COs was crouched over Baserman. He was talking to me and awake, McDowell said. Both men were taken to a local hospital for treatment, but Baserman died 11 days later. District attorney said jurors will hear more about the severe brain injuries Baserman sustained, and that those injuries led to his death. Now, like I said, keep in mind this individual, Kendrick, was already sentenced to 2 lives in prison. And now, after killing that CO, he ends up getting sentenced to death. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, but remember what I said in the very beginning about SCI Somerset, the prison he's in? That's where they have death row now as well. So homeboy's probably not even leaving the prison, just going right around the corner to the death row wing. And if that's the case, man, you can only imagine what them COs got coming his way. But this is the thing. Will he actually get the death penalty? Man, maybe not anytime soon. The last death row inmate to be killed in Pennsylvania was Gary M. Heidenich, who died by lethal injection on July 6, 1999. But as of the present day, the governor has placed a moratorium on executions in Pennsylvania and is urging lawmakers to abolish the death penalty, making it unlikely another execution will occur anytime soon. But, you know, that could change at any given time. A new governor come into place, change some laws here and there. Next thing you know, they're steamrolling executions. Right? I can only imagine those inmates in that cell block are hoping and praying for the perfect governor to make sure that that moratorium stays active. But that's the story of Mr. Kendrick. Got 2 life sentences for killing an individual just playing some basketball, and ends up getting sentenced to death after killing a CO for taking his towel. Prime example, right, of digging a ditch too deep you can't get out of. And it usually happens like that when people lose all hope in life. You know, usually the lifers, they ain't never gonna see the streets again. Maybe it's their birthday, maybe it's their wife's birthday, and they're feeling really down. Next thing you know, you take their towel and they're killing you. Gotta be careful around lifers, man. COs, inmates, anyone. But I'm out here. Hopefully you enjoyed and learned a few things along the way. If you did and you're new, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave. And stay tuned. The next episode will be a plethora of stories of inmates losing their life recently in prison. Some of these guys were short timers, man. They probably never in a million years thought they wouldn't make it out. But as always, until the next time, y'all be easy, be safe, and stay free.